this on right. First order of business, were there any approval of the minutes from, this is July. We approved them for May, right? Okay, so there's nothing to do for June. No minutes for June. Okay. Did I do that correctly?
I have a set of minutes that I did put together from the meeting that mark myself absence from it and then Damon's attendance. So you have those in your packet if you would like to approve those.
Second.
It's been moved, motioned, and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Okay. That's one down. Reports. Parks and Recreation.
Ian, if you want to kick on the screens, I just had a couple slides prepared for tonight's summary. In June, we actually had our 11th annual Great American Backyard Campout. Pretty remarkable that we're crossing the 11th year, of course, of the event. We were supposed to have the event on May 31st, as the flyer up there shows, but unfortunately we were rained out. Rain, of course, has been a wonderful theme again this summer, but we did get the event in June. I think we had it on, I think it says, oh, my eyes are a little weak tonight. June 14th, we had it, and we had a rainy day that day, but the skies did clear up in time for the campers to arrive, and we ended up having a pretty successful event, even though we had about 330 that were registered originally. Probably only about half actually ended up attending for the postponed date. So that was a little disappointing, but that's what happens, when we have an original date and then we have to move to a postponement date. But in any case, I really want to take a moment to thank all the scouts that were attending, as well as all the community groups that were in attendance. We had a lot of activities that were spread throughout the park at a lot of different sites. We had scavenger hunts, and we had fishing activities, and just all kinds of things that were going on throughout the night for those that had attended. Ardent Credit Union came out, and they had a cookout for everybody. We also had Kona Ice, which was for free for everybody, so those that attended really had an amazing time. So really, again, thank you to the Scouts, thank you to all the organizations that were there. It was really a remarkable event, despite moving to the rain date and having really overall what was a pretty rainy day, and it was pretty muddy overall in and around the Willows area where everything was set up. Upcoming this weekend, we have the 5th annual Odoriccio Music Night. That'll be taking place at Odoriccio Park. We're looking forward to having the Ernest White Band, Janelle Thomas, and some other musical performers locally that'll be performing, and looking forward to having a nice night and getting a chance to get out and interact with the community and celebrate this wonderful park. I know where we've been having this event now in its 5th year, and seems to be very welcomed by the neighborhood. Everybody's excited for the event. A lot of people come out, and just gives a good opportunity to see folks, talk with folks, and share the musical experience together. We also have the 7th annual Unity in Our Community block party that's coming up Saturday, August 23rd, so save the date for that event. Also, just Radnor Day Camp, of course, is up and running. I know we didn't get a chance to talk about it in June, but we kicked off with huge success. Right now we have 220 campers and 56 staff members working for us. 30 of those staff members actually returned from last year, and 29 of them are actually Radnor residents. So a lot of folks from right here in Radnor that are students, teachers, those that live in the community that are working for us. And overall, things are going successfully every day. It's a mad dash to keep up with all the fun things that they're doing, and also assist them with the challenges that they have on a daily basis. We have a camp director, Megan Weaver-Horex, she has returned into her 18th year, and our assistant director, AJ Nordone, has returned in his 5th year. and our swimming coordinator. We have swimming, of course, off-site from Radnor Elementary, where the camp takes place, at ACAC, which is formerly La Maison Fitness. And our director over there, Mary Beth Ryan, she's actually in her, I believe, 18th year as well, 19th year. So she's been around for a really long time. So we have a great staff, and just really excited and looking forward to all the great things that they're doing as they wrap up through the summer on August 1st. We also have Survivor Nature Camp going on over at the Willows over 8 weeks in 8 different sessions. And we have about 520 campers that are registered for that program. So a lot of traffic on the trails and a lot of fun nature activities that they're doing. So I just wanted to kind of close that out with some slides and also just share Heather DeCanzio, who is our current department program supervisor. She's been serving in her role for a decade now, for 10 years. She's actually going to be taking another job in August, unfortunately, so we're going to be losing her, which is very unfortunate because she has huge shoes to fill. So for the last several weeks, I've been working through the hiring process. If you don't recall, I just actually came off the hiring process of the recreation assistant position, which was something that we were working diligently to fill. Of course, with Tracy being out on maternity leave and Natalie going out on maternity leave in upcoming in September, now losing Heather, we're going to ask for a lot of patience with the community as we're going through major staffing deficits and changes right now, where some of that will start to resonate, of course, come August and September. Once, of course, we lose Heather, and we have a replacement, of course, that'll come in, and I know will be, ready to do a good job. We have a lot of great candidates. In fact, we're now approaching about 120 candidates for the position. So I've had about 20 pre-screening calls over the last few weeks and 15 interviews. We actually had 2 interviews today with candidates who are working on their 3rd and 4th interviews. So it's a very slow process, but it's a big position. With this position is a significant amount of supervision. It's annual hiring. So I had mentioned previously, this year we have 56 individuals that are serving Radnor Day Camp. Those are positions that are all interviewed, recruited, interviewed, hired. There's a long process that goes into it. We really play all the phases of the HR department through the hiring of our seasonal staff. And then in addition to that, there's a huge list of different vendors that we work with. Like you saw Survivor Nature Camp there up on the screen. We work with a company called World Cup Sports Academy. So even though we have a point of contact for that vendor, there's probably 20 to 30 staff members that then they oversee, who in turn, of course, become, part of who we are out there delivering programs, quality of life services on our behalf. So it's a very vast network of people that we work through. And these are things that happen seasonally. And then, of course, with the hiring of the summer staff, that's annual. It's a process that starts in December. We're still hiring people up to the first day of camp and training, because sometimes inevitably we lose people through the training process when they realize working with children is a really tough job. It's not just going out and, getting a tan and hanging out and having fun. Like, there's a lot of responsibility that comes along with it. So it's a big role. There's a lot of responsibilities. And so, we're trying to take our time through the hiring process, and hopefully within another week or so, we'll have somebody in that role that we can bring in, that we can train, especially since we have the camp active and up and running. They get an opportunity to meet the staff, interact with the staff, and understand the culture, because there's a lot that goes into it. So we're excited about that, but by the same token, we're sad about that also, because we're losing a really great township employee with Heather. And then Tracy will be returning in hopefully early August. As soon as she walks back in the door, she'll be running Wizarding Camp for 3 weeks, as she serves as the director there, in addition to all of her other duties, here at the township. And then, within a few weeks, we'll be losing Natalie also, who will be going out on maternity leave. So there's a lot of changes happening. We're excited about what the future has in store for us. We're certainly going to make the most of that. So really that concludes my report. There's a lot of things going on, but I wanted to touch on a lot of those things.
Oh, Thank you.
Could I ask a stupid question? Is the township have an HR department, or am I voting, can they help it? I mean, it sounds to me like you're doing an awful lot of work, but the township, do they have an HR department?
We do.
Are they, do they have input in any of this?
They do. I mean, it's, our department is right now, our HR department is right now in the process of hiring some positions on behalf of the
okay,
township.
so they got their own problems.
They're involved in a lot as well.
Okay.
And we want to move fast, and we actually are on a pretty tight timeline, especially to get Heather's position
Gotcha.
turned around. So I think everybody's just trying to work together and, get that done as quickly as possible.
In the few times that I have worked with Heather, I hope that you'll extend our thanks and appreciation to all the things that she's done for this board and for the Parks and Rec, through the time she has been here. It's been greatly appreciated. And I got a chance to see her firsthand at the Unity and Community last year. And I worked with her there. So just extend, if I don't get a chance to see her, please extend my congratulations and well wishes to her.
I will do that. Thank
me
you.
and the board, I guess. Thank you. Board of Commissioners?
Nothing new. Does anybody have any question about anything?
Actually, I do have one question. Just in regards to our recent storm, there are a lot of trees and whatnot still down along the roads. This may not be germane to park, but I'm just curious, is there a process to assist with cleaning up those trees, particularly on Conestoga, that are blocking the road?
As far as I'm aware, Public Works is in the process of
Working.
managing that.
It's still considerable. I drive on Conestoga, and there was so much down. Was there also any significant park damage during the storm?
Trees, of course, and roof leaks, of course, at the rack. But I think just tree damage is really the majority of what,
the parks
what we
held
experience
up pretty
within the
well.
parks, to my knowledge, yes.
Anything else? Shade Tree Committee.
I don't have a report from the Shade Tree Committee this month.
Okay. Any new business? And if not, the old business with Arterisio Park, comprehensive improvement.
Ian, if you want to kick over, I have a few slides prepared for tonight just to kind of talk about Odoriccio. We spent the last 2 months at the Radnor Township Civic Association engaging with members of the community, and basically along our process here, that takes us now to really taking a look at the outcomes of some of the feedback and information that was gained as a result of those meetings. Which I understand, really have been pretty productive. I wasn't there in June, but I was in May's meeting where I felt like we had pretty considerable attendance and great dialogue. So right now, I think where we are is digesting what some of that commentary has been, and trying to come up with some recommendations on how the current draft conceptual plan might be changed or modified into a version 2. And then the hope is that we can discuss that and start to develop an order of magnitude of what we think the project is going to cost. So that's something that could potentially tie in this fall with the commissioner's budget process as we start to consider capital, bonds, things of that nature that might go into funding this project perhaps on the horizon, if not in 2026. Perhaps by 2027. So if you'll recall, this has been the version of the plan that we've been looking at. I had a few presentations on it earlier this year, And I think based on the summary that at least I had an opportunity to put together from May, as well as those that I talked to from the board regarding the June meeting, some of the considerations were looking to remove the stage that was lower on the hillside there below the basketball courts, as well as the tiered seating that had been allocated within the side of the hill. So a couple of those things are circled on there. Let me grab the pointer and see if I can point those out a little bit. So here and here. And perhaps find a way up above in the upper portion of the park where we're anticipating a pavilion or some sort of a bathroom facility where there might be an opportunity to create a stage space in and around that area to be able to capture the ability for some of the musicians locally that enjoy playing in the park annually, and or a space that can maybe double for grilling or for other, multi-purpose type activities. And then you could have the opportunity for folks to sit in and around the grass area here. So I know that was one of the considerations. Another suggestion that I was thinking about was also, we could potentially consider a gazebo type of a facility in addition to a bathroom facility where, might be sort of an elevated type of facility where bands could play there, could be, a place where kids could play under it, would have, a covered structure, be it a shade structure or some type of a roof. Some of the other takeaways, and I'll jump to some slides in a minute to sort of like look at some of the ideas. Some of the other takeaways, at least from what I gathered, and by all means I want to hear from the board on this as well, was that the trails in the wooded area, back behind the basketball courts, really overall was not appealing to the neighbors. So I think that had continued to be something that was sort of a topic on the shelf, perhaps for the future. The playground, I think in the May meeting, there was a suggestion where we may want to take the playground and make it larger than its existing space and move it closer towards West Wayne Avenue, somewhere maybe in and around the area where the current macadam area is now. It sort of acts almost like a macadam area, as well as a parking lot. Also, just a lot of discussion on playground features. I think inclusive features were definitely sort of a number one desire, no matter what we do there, whether or not we consider more active spaces or nature-based playgrounds, things of that nature could be definitely something that could tie in some type of a hybrid situation. Of course, we want to start to consider what that might entail, because all of those different ideas can take on a different look, especially if we're increasing the size and then trying to sort of drill into what that might look like so that we can try to understand the costs. And then, of course, the parking. My understanding from the last meeting, I know Damon Drummond was there. He works with Gilmore and Associates and one of the township's traffic engineers. It sounded like walking away from that meeting, some of the sentiment of the neighbors and I guess thoughts overall were having a one-way in, one-way out situation with regards to the parking lot at Fairview and Church was not desirable. Was not something that's appealing to the community, so we would maybe take a different look at this parking lot to try and expand it so that we could have basic parallel parking within it, similar to what it is right now, but to increase the size so that perhaps on the opposite side of where you have the parallel parking now, we could capture parallel parking there to increase the parking capacity. So that's a consideration. As well as the potential for expanding parking and making this lot over here one way in, one way out seemed like it was desirable overall, where we could increase the parking capacity on this side and maybe even increase the parking lot size. And then last but not least, I think some of the baseball features still need to be discussed. I know we talked about an overhang structure where there's seating, either near the dugout area or somehow embedded into the hillside near the backstop. Some of those pieces require a little bit more discussion to figure out what might be opportunistic there to be able to capture the seating for not only the baseball events that take place at the park, but the recreational events with soccer and lacrosse and things like that that occur at the park as well. So just looking at the pavilion structures, I know some of these you'll remember from I guess the May presentation that I had made, as well as March, where we talked about different types of structures that we could have in terms of a bathroom. If you look at some of these examples, I don't see any reason why it couldn't double as a stage as well as being a picnic area where the picnic tables could actually be moved if we were going to have a band of some sort perform. Obviously, a lot of the electrical and things like that would have to be considered to have the capacity to be able to accommodate bands, you know, similar to what we're doing right now if we were to do this up in the upper portion of the park. So here's just some other ideas, you know, where something could be elevated, you know, where folks could sit around to see and look in on, you know, forms of entertainment that might happen in and around the pavilion area. And then we could have a standalone bathroom, similar to like one of the bathrooms that you'd see now maybe at Cowan or some of the other parks where they're bathrooms solely, but then in order to capture band space, entertainment space, and additional play space, we could have some sort of a, you know, a hexagonal or a square type structure that would almost serve like a gazebo, as I had mentioned, that could also be located up in that portion of the park. And that's just a highlight of the existing playground right now, just so you could kind of see an aerial of some of the spaces that I'm talking about. So I guess I'll keep going a little bit further. Playgrounds, again, you know, we talked about a lot of different types. I think at some point, again, we want to know, like, we want to have some goals and objectives, because to go and start to put together an inclusive playground or some type of a playground that is a hybrid, and when I say that, I mean, like, if we're going to consider sports and fitness focused equipment, or we're going to look at nature-based equipment or different ideas, it will take time, of course, to put those together. So I think, you know, we really have heard a mix of things of what people have been desiring at the park, but in order for us to really understand what this is going to cost, we have to start to get to some ideas so we can go out and work with vendors and start to put together some solid plans and concepts of what that might look like. I know that a lot of this, again, is just kind of a little bit of a repeat of some of the slides that I showed at the RTCA in May that depicted inclusive type program or inclusive type playgrounds that offer you know, different types of features for, you know, all users, but really for a diverse amount of users that would be potentially coming to the park, for kids that potentially have disabilities. You know, obviously there's a lot of lower level you know, type things that reduce the vertical climbers and the things that you see at Clemacrone Park or at Enki Park, by making these things more, you know, to ground level, that can be appealing to, you know, basically all abilities, and a significant amount of different ideas that we can blend and fuse together. You know, here you see things like adaptive type swings and things like that, active things, inclusive zip lines. The We Saw up in the right-hand corner, we have that actually right now over at Petrie Park. It's really popular. So there's a lot of different ideas. I'm just going to kind of comb through some of these. So I think we really want to hear what folks want to see, so we can try to make that space more developed so we have a concept that we can take a closer look at. And then, of course, as I had mentioned, the parking, I think the parking is going to need to have some more considerations, as I had just noted. So I think at this point, I mean, my goal is to hear from the board, keep hearing from the public, to see what, you know, what are some of the goals and objectives, what are some of the takeaways that maybe you heard that I didn't hear, that we want to see. I know especially for Chairman Howard Childs, I know this is your park and your baby, and Member Sharifa Bell, I know you guys live in the neighborhood. This is a really important park to you guys and to everyone. We know a lot of people come from all areas of the township, so really understanding what we think we want to see, because we have to get to a point where we have some solid objectives so we can go back and put some more concrete plans together and then start to develop an order of magnitude on what it's going to cost. And ideally, that's something we really want to know soon, within the next couple of months at most, because we know the commissioners are going to be starting their budgeting process. So knowing what the potential is for what this park could cost to figure out how it might be funded is something that'll be really important and a big part of that process. So I didn't know if you had any thoughts or any questions.
Oh, this
I'll
is
give it
really, oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead, please, Jenna.
Okay.
Go.
In terms of those, like those fitness playgrounds, I don't know what they're called. I see a lot of them, and I don't think I've ever seen anybody actually use them. Like, I don't think I've ever seen anybody exercising on them. I know that came up in the conversations, and I know some of these are more ninja-oriented, but like I know in Ellis Preserve, there's maybe 6 of them, and we lived there for almost 3 years, and I don't think I ever saw anybody use them once. So I'm not sure how much actual use they would realistically get.
And one consideration, just to kind of chime into that, is that even if we went with more of a commercial-based playground like, we're traditionally used to seeing, with inclusive features, of course, because I think that's really important to take those into consideration with this playground. Some of these kinds of features can be embedded in certain ways, minimally, so that it's not the entire composition of what the space would be developed. It could be a portion of it.
Just a few comments, Tammy. I think your summary reflected at least the majority of what we heard at the last meeting, which you were unable to attend. I would say, other than the one-way traffic issue, there was nothing that was unanimous, however, as would be expected when you have folks giving their input. Clearly, even beyond the scope of the park renovation, there seems to be some element of unease with the parking in general, whether it be the parking in the lot that on the preliminary plan suggests would go away, whether it be the one that's on the first base line of the baseball field, or it's the one by the basketball courts. There was lots of animated discussion and opinions on all 3 of those areas. So that's not something perhaps that this park project would ever solve, but certainly it's something that needs to be considered as part of the planning. With respect to baseball, we didn't hear anything, I don't think, on any of the baseball elements. Probably there's some more input needed there as well. With respect to a music potential feature, music stage type feature, I don't favor the one in the left field that was on the preliminary plan. While a good idea, I just don't think there's a demand for that. I think if we're going to have that element in, it should be incorporated into something else that could be used. I just know I'm in Clem McCrone a ton, and the one that's there just doesn't get used, and I'd like to preserve those resources for other things. Those are some of the big things. We did hear people who wanted to have the ability to walk through the woods, and some people that didn't. That's the nature of public opinion, and we try to distill that. I think you hit the majority viewpoint on all those in your summary, though. Thanks.
I'm going to approach it a little bit differently because there's a tremendous amount of effort, and I'm amazed at the input that has gone into this, both from the township, from your point of view, and from everybody else's. And the public opinion is very, very important. But I've been raised, I guess put it this way, I've been raised in sports, and I've now come to the realization at my old age, it's all going to come down to money. I think all of these ideas are great. I mean, we can agree on them, but then it's going to go to the board, and the board's going to say, well, we've only got 22 cents to spend because that's not our priority. And I'm wondering if we can somehow get a better bridge to how the money could be at least budgeted for something. I mean, in other words, yes, these are great ideas. I love them. They're all good. But they're all going to cost money. And they're all going to get down to the shell for music, whether you like it or don't, is going to cost money. And then the board's going to say, well, we have a priority in other areas. And I don't know whether Parks and Recs will get the attention that we want it, because we're the board recommending things. So my question is, and Jim, maybe you could answer this, or how can we get a better conduit to the board as to, can we spend 22 cents or can we spend 42 cents? I mean, just a parameter or some budgeting, because the priority of the money, I think, will be the stumbling block to almost any plan we come up with. And I'm also referring to Fenimore. Well, Fenimore's different, but money. I guess that's, we need a right-handed hitting outfielder, and we need a bullpen. Well, let's go and spend the money and do it. Well, I think maybe there'll be some question about that. So I'm saying it's all about the money. What can we do to grease the skids? That's not the best way to put it, but somehow get a better bead of where the board thinks of us. That's my question.
Yeah, I can tell you what I think about it, not really the whole board. I know, say, for the baseball field, I played there as a kid. It's the best natural field anywhere. It's beautiful to go there, just the way it is, the way it's set up and has been, still is. And then when I was head of Little League, they talked about making dugouts there. And the dugouts similar to what we have on South Devon, that's just the top part for shade. Of course, since then, a cheap route out on the benches, and there is that hill there. And the hill itself, kids with cleats can get down that hill. Adults should take the steps and go around instead of going down the steps or down the grass. But you can now use those portable tents and set it up so it has shorter legs on one side, longer here, and cover the benches if you wanted to. And then save money and put it to the playground, because the playground has to be redone.
I love that opinion, and I think it probably is right. However, I'm wondering, where's the money coming from? I mean, the board, this is a budgeted item, right? There's no private monies going into this, I assume.
Well, a Little League is committed to funding portions of what they may need. I don't have a designated amount on what that might be, but like, for example, the dugouts at Warren Philippone Park that have the overhang, they would like to see those at the park. I've had discussions about those particular dugouts and them funding those dugouts. They haven't committed to it, but they are interested in looking to commit towards the baseball elements.
The point is that in this trade, or whatever we're going to do, if we're getting this batter, we got some leverage in the sense that the Little League will put up some money, which I think is important, in the presentation to the board.
Right, and I don't want to speak on behalf of Little League, but we've had the discussion,
Well,
and there's interest in if there's an ability for them to put up
All
some
right.
money. I know that there is interest in renovating the field. The field does need a significant amount of renovation because of the drainage issues.
Yeah,
That really just ties back to the overall problems with the park and the erosion that's
Yeah.
coming from the hillside. I mean, at some point, those trees are going to completely wash out, those hillsides are going to wash out. I know, home plate now, many games have to be canceled because there's no ability to play there because there's so much water laying on that
Right.
field that's all eroding down from the upper portion of the park.
Well, again, there's two ways to approach it, from the money point and also the presentation of the plans of how extensive, not extensive, and if there's any way we can do something with the board, and that's really communications to say, hey, I think we can get $15,000 or something. I think that would go a long way to helping these plans, because maybe nature, and again, I'm talking through my hat here, but maybe a nature trail would be too expensive. Maybe maybe there's a lot of things here, but we don't know what the board, we don't know what the importance of this to the board and roughly how much we could get. So I don't know whether I said that eloquently or not, but that's my thoughts.
I think as a resident and knowing, kids and the diversity of kids in terms of special needs and so forth, my grandkids and I, we playground hop, and one of the playgrounds that we go to is down off of Airedale, off of Montgomery. And that is a phenomenal park. It has a lot of equipment that is that takes into consideration the special needs of children. And when we talk about a playground and modernizing it, I think taking in special needs, whether you have a special need or not, because sometimes it's just a matter of a kid wanting to get on the swings but not really being big enough or physically able enough to handle a swing that doesn't have a back. And even though that back is for a special needs kid, it also doubles as a swing that a younger kid can get on. My point is that expanding the playground, making it such that we take into consideration the diverse needs of special needs kids as well as developing kids, I think is what the community is going to want, because that's what we're more interested in. We've been interested in the basketball courts, the conditions of the playground, the conditions of the bathrooms and so forth. Listen, baseball always takes care of that field. That is one of the most taken care of fields. If you ever sit there and watch him cut the grass, he has a configuration that he works. That's a well taken care of field. So I'm not really as concerned about the baseball field as I am about the playground, because that has not been a place that we've placed emphasis for many, many years. So if people want to expand it, that makes sense. If people want to do things that allow more people or more kids of different abilities to access the park, that makes sense. For me, that's my
Totally,
input to it.
100% agree with you. There is no question that the special needs community is being neglected in a lot of areas, and I totally agree. And as I say, if I could get the Board of Commissioners to say they agree, then maybe we get some money. That's my only, not argument, that's my only comment to that. I agree 100% with you.
I am.
Anyone else before I give my little 2 cents here? I would just like to say that I love it when the baseball teams come down, because they bring their families, their little brothers and their sisters of the guys that are playing on the field, and they go on the playground. I do say that the playground area, it's more of a renovation, I think, and expanded a little bit. Special needs, yes. I think that, but I do think that it's more of a renovation thing than what you did to the rest of the parks. And if it becomes something that's really enjoyable for the kids, the kids will find a way to make it back to the park. A lot of kids have bikes in the township, and just as she said, she goes to another park. If they really enjoy it there and have that playground there, they will come back. you know, on off game days. I think that we're paying attention to the things like the basketball court where, you know, that was our focus for a while, but we've gotten that straightened. We've gotten other people from the township to come down there and play with us. I think that whole rest area there, well, I guess what I'm trying to say is this. If we make it so that we have a plan of, like Tammy has said, with all the options that she's given us and different things, and we start to make this thing focus more now on actually saying what we want in there, the board themselves will see the interest that the community takes in it, and it'll sort of like help us make it to the next level, to sort of like say, okay, this is what we want, this is what we need, and it's more of a, to me, it's more of a renovation than a whole new creation thing, because you've only got but so much land there, and you're moving. In my opinion, it just takes moving down the play area, the playground area, which needs to be upgraded. Enlarge that, you know, the smaller, the lots in between for whatever you're going to do there for bands or whatever, and people will see the interest and see the beauty in there, and they will come back to it. I think that we as the community will force the commissioners to say, look, let's look at this thing, and if the community loves it, they're not asking for a whole lot here. They're asking to just beautify what we have. And if we get the backing of the community in it, then that's all it's going to take. That's just my opinion. But I do think that we need to start to focus more now on what we want out of that park and where we want to strategically put thing and have the community sign off on it, and then go from there and take those natural steps. I don't think this was as complex as a Clay McCrone field was. I don't think it's as complex as that. I think this can be done in a shorter period of time. You know, once we figure out what we want in there as a community, as we go on down the road, and I don't think the price, for me, I don't think the price tag would be that much more than what they've already done in other parks. That's just my opinion.
I just want to add, because, you know, the Highland community is not the only neighbors who are affected, and I don't want to forget our other neighbors who are drowning down the hill. You know, they've come and they've expressed their concerns about the water runoff that runs down into their property line. And so I think whatever makes sense in the way of being able to catch that water is also something that we have to balance in our desire to expand or diversify or what have you, is that we also got to be mindful of our neighbors who've expressed the fact that the erosions are affecting their property, and how can we, you know, limit that in what we're doing. So I think those are things that have to stay on the table as well.
If I may, we will be bound by that, by our ordinances with regards to stormwater.
Okay.
So any improvements that are going to be made from an infrastructure standpoint to the park, even if it's replacing square footage that's already there, will still be impacted by stormwater management, and we will have to perform based on our own ordinances to that. So that was the purpose of, and I'll point to where this box is right here, because it's right now blocking, of course, the bottom portion of the park. Of course, I can probably just go back to this slide, but you could see that there's a considerable amount of stormwater management and considerations that are being made to the plan that are going to have to go into the plan anyways. as well as stopping the erosion that's coming down into the field. So a lot of this up here is going to have to be configured and designed and re-engineered, if you will, to that sense, so that will be part of the project, and it'll be something that we have to do.
The balance, yeah.
And I just want to jump in here one more time and say that the parks where we used to use before, where we used to interchange with, one park, one Thursday would go down to the high school for swimming, and 2 other parks were playing softball against each other. Those days are gone, where the community during the summertime took advantage of the parks that they had, and you had more kids coming out, and you had counselors there, and with the arts and crafts and things like those days are gone. It seems like it's a smaller group of people, and that what you have now are people that are moving into the area and not taking advantage of the parks as much as they used to, where we grew up in the park. That's how we did our athletics and things like that. That's how we learned how to play baseball and soccer or what have you. But now it's mostly, kids have got the basketball hoops in their garage now, and they're not leaving their homes unless they get a big gathering together and they say, let's go to the park and let's play against some guys. And now the guys that are older, that are in high school, I still meet some guys at Arterisio on Saturdays or late in the evenings, and I get a chance to coach them up a little bit, I guess. And they love it, the older guys. But it's just the basketball area that we take advantage of. It's not so much the playground area. But I would love to see the playground area used more. I would love to see the kids come out and step away from the Nintendos and, watching the television. Get out there, enjoy some of the fresh air that has been afforded to them. Use this whole township, because it's, you can't go other places and have what we have in Radnor Township. And the thing is, we want to make it so it's attractive to the kids to want to come out there, whether, I'm not going to say in this heat, but to want to come out there and hang on the bars, jump and swing, freely, and feel the fresh air and all those things, experience the things that we did. But I do think that we need to take some time to give some serious thought about what we put in those playgrounds for everybody to enjoy themselves. Not just one group of people, and the people on Highland Avenue just don't seem to be interested enough, the youth, to be interested enough to cross the street to come over in the park, So I'm glad that we have people from walking distance that are coming and saying what they want there, and people that just play in the baseball fields or the soccer fields. And the girls that play soccer on the weekends, if this is a safe place for them, they'll return there. And that's my goal, that we make it conducive for everybody. I'm sorry I went off on a tangent there. Anybody else?
Yeah, I thought you made a good point. We're almost competing with kids playing video games, and they'd rather play a video game than go outside and just play. So if you give them something there that the kids want to go there, that would be great. You also brought up heat. It would be nice to get some shade at these spots, and you've probably designed those before, so that has shade. And then the stormwater, it's raining way more than it used to, so we have more erosion. So then when we do this, it will be up to date and better than what we have now, which is great.
Can I change the subject? What is the status of Beau Connor Park? And I'm not saying change the subject, but is that done? Is that being used? Is it open? You were repaving it, putting in new equipment, I think. No?
I'm not sure what you're referring to. Beau Connor
Beau
Park?
Beau Connor Park?
New playground?
Yeah. You got a new playground? Is that,
Not at Beau Connor Park, no.
oh,
Connor Park was renovated in 2019, 2019, 2018, 2019, but
Okay.
it did not include the renovation and/or replacement of the playground.
Is there any park that you just recently have done that's renovated? Like with new equipment, new,
Clemacrone and Enki are the newest. So Clemacrone was in 2017 and Enki in 2015.
okay. Strike my comments from the order because I'm nuts. I thought you were doing something at Connor, but that's right.
There might have been replacing equipment because it's 30 years old.
Oh, that's it?
Because we have
Okay,
equipment
well-
that breaks down and needs to be replaced at this point. That's happened at Odoricio, it's happened at Cowan. Some of these playgrounds are approaching their, 28, 29, 30-year mark.
Yeah.
So there's times where I report on, some of the incidentals within those that have to be replaced.
Yes.
As we have done recently, of course, in.
Please strike
Clemacrone,
that question
or in,
from the,
Odoricio.
whatever.
Any other comment? If not, the dogs in the Township Park?
On July 21st, we have a Board of Commissioners meeting, and the ordinance 2025-3, which basically was codifying Chapter 205, the Park and Rec areas relative to dogs, will be before the board for adoption. This was introduced by the commissioners in May. It was tabled in June, and it will come back to them on 2 Mondays from now. So that will be before them. And nothing has changed since the introduction. The only thing that has been added to it is just there's a definition to what it means to be an owner. So I gave a copy of the copy of the ordinance to each of you, so you have a copy of it. I have copies of it here tonight, just, if folks had shown up, wanted to make sure everybody is looking at the latest version, since we've had so many, it's been a revolving door on this. So that will potentially be there for adoption Monday night. So, we welcome people to attend. I think some folks were in attendance in June. And I know there's some folks that feel strongly about looking at the reevaluating the leash imposition, of course, at Emlyn Tennell Park as well as Cowan Park. So I would encourage, if anybody has changes, the 21st is going to be their last chance, I think, to take a look at this and potentially enact some changes on that.
Tammy, the agenda says the version that you passed out to us was sent to Delco and LNL, or LL. What is that Delaware County or?
So we're required to advertise it, so that was
Okay.
John Rice
Okay,
sending that and sharing that. To be honest with you, I'm not sure what LL stands for off the top of my head, but I'm sure Delco refers to the newspaper.
okay.
So that it has, we have requirements for its advertisement, which I think it's 10 days, if I'm not mistaken. So it's been out there in advertisement.
Any other comments?
If it's voted in, when does it go in effect? I'm sorry, I didn't read from the,
I believe there's a 30-day grace period,
Okay.
and then we'll be discussing overall what we'll be doing as far as, changes to signage. If there's potential for changes to certain parks, obviously there might be some infrastructure changes and things like that. I don't know if we'll get into looking at allocating spaces that might require fencing or things like that. I don't know that we're going there, but if we are, we'll have time to put that game plan together and then also have discussions on how the enforcement is going to work.
and is there any preliminary plans for standardized signage yet? Or is that something that still
That will follow this.
will follow?
Any other comments? If not, park project updates?
So I have an update on Fenimore Woods. We received bids. I'm going to ask Ian to just kind of kick over. I'm gonna put this up because this reveals the bidding detail. So we received bids in early June And just to kind of step back through the process, we bid the project. We bid the project in April. Bids came back. That we had one bid that was not a qualifying bid. It was way far over budget. This is a multi-prime project. We only had a general contractor bid on it. We did not have an electrical portion. We did not have a plumbing portion. So we had to reject the bids and come back and rebid the project. I know we had a considerable amount of discussion about this with the commissioners. We talked about different ideas, whether or not, we were going to rebid, whether or not we were going to look at some other way, we could legally get the project done. But we did make the decision to go back out to bid. When we came back from the bidding process, this was what we were given. And obviously seeing low bidder, Davis Construction, and then, of course, the two qualifying electrical and plumbing bids, which we're still working through the paperwork process on all of the firms, meaning the qualifying, all the qualifying bidders and the low bidder, and, of course, the electrical and plumbing bids. And this will be on the agenda for award as well on the 21st. So this will be a pretty big discussion area. So I wanted to show everybody the budget, because this is a little bit of a precursor to what the board is going to see on the 21st, provided we get all the paperwork back and everything that we need respectively from the GC, the electrical, and the plumbing, which I don't have any reason to know right now that wouldn't happen. It's all in process, and they have all committed. We actually had a meeting with the GC, with Davis. They're very excited about the project. The reason why their bid is so much lower than the other bids on the list is because they're injecting some economies of scale with a lot of the woodwork by not using a lot of subs within the project. So that's allowing them to have one person to come in and do the work. They're also doing a lot of things at cost. They're anxious to get this job. They want to get their name out there. They want to start working with the township on a lot of projects. So we stepped through all of the line item detail, and we feel very confident about what they're presenting. We're all on the same page essentially with regards to the project. Obviously, there's still unknowns that could happen, once we start getting into the project and, getting deeper into the woodwork and some of the things that are within there. But this was their bid, basically, the 882, and then, combined with our electrical and our plumbing, that put us at $1,033,000. So just for, bless you, just for a reminder on what we looked at when we took a look at this project back in June of 2024, which, is a full year since now, you could see where our totals were at that given time. So, I mean, we don't really have significant differences here. I think it's about $165,000 difference on where we are. So we're not too far off of what the total project cost and estimate would look like, bringing us in at, $1,197,000. So we're excited moving forward, and excited at the prospect of what this project is going to look like. And I know they're anxious to get started. So if this is awarded by the commissioners on the 21st, there's a good chance that hopefully by September, October, we'll be under construction. And then I wanted to kind of show the revised budget in total. So the numbers that you're looking at down here are all the same as what was presented, that represent all the other areas of the project that will be, the improvements that we'll be making, but now, of course, compounded with the increased cost of the stable. So don't be afraid of the 1.7. I know our budget isn't quite there. I'm going to jump to that. So if we take a look at some of the subsidized funding that we've gotten, we know we have a grant right now from DCED that's been allocated towards the pavilion. We also have a settlement that we have from a property here in town that bestowed $200,000 to the project. So right now, we're in at about 1.5. Some of these numbers might be tweaked a little bit. I have to go through a couple things with finance before the commissioners meeting on the 21st, but this is a little bit of a precursor to some of the numbers that they'll be seeing. But in essence, they're going to be approving, if I back up just to show it again, they'll basically be approving the 1,033,000 and making the award to Davis Construction, of course, White Marsh, and the plumbing contractor. So we're excited to get started on the project. So I just wanted to give this little bit of an update to the board tonight on what that's going to look like.
That's great.
Now, if for some reason we don't receive certain things we're waiting on, it will be pulled from the agenda, but as of right now, we don't have any reason to expect that that's going to happen.
Probably don't have an answer to the question, but you know I'm going to ask. Assuming this goes through and is approved, what is the timeline, if there has been a timeline that Davis or the other contractors have provided?
Well, the thought process is they would start in the fall, but it would be a project that would end up extending into the new year. So, provided we have a decent winter, they probably would be working, somewhat throughout the winter. And if everything goes well, this combined with the pavilion, which has been purchased, the Board of Commissioners had authorized that, I believe, in May as well, if I'm not mistaken. My board meetings are all starting to run together now with the commissioners, but we have the pavilion on order, which should have the pavilion arriving sometime in the fall. So we'll have an opportunity to have potentially both of these projects going on at the same time, and hopefully in turn, ready for the spring. That's ideal. We know never to stay. We never stay on schedule for projects around here.
Or anywhere else?
Very, very true. Yes.
The pavilion design, has that been published? Is that something we've seen?
I presented it to the commissioners.
Okay. And it includes the base as well, like that concrete platform is
Yes.
going and it's brought to ground level?
Yes.
It's going to be a ground level?
Yes.
What is the base exactly? Just
It's concrete like it
it's
is
gonna
now,
be a
but it'll be
concrete
replaced
butt
because right
flush.
now it's been removed. It was an uneven.
And electrical is included in that as well?
It is, but part of the electrical is going to be run from the stable, and it's going to be laid within the ground, of course, but that's where the hub is going to come from, where the electric will be. But people who use the pavilion will have the opportunity to have electric there.
And do either of those structures have exterior lighting, or are they going to be
There will
not
be
lit at night?
There will be soft light packs on the stable, so that when if the police department is cruising through during the evening time, they'll be able to see. It won't be anything bright, something very similar to like what we have at Macomb, what we have at Tennelle, but there will not be lighting on the pavilion.
And the stable structure, will they have heating in it?
No.
No, it would be a environmentally.
Yes, there's a baseboard heat in the bathrooms that would only have to be run at certain points, but there's not an HVAC system that's being built into the building.
But running water would be part of that stable.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's water to the building currently now, because there are bathrooms in the building now. They're not to code, which is why the building's being completely reconfigured, but there's water running to it currently because there are flushable toilets in there.
And the interior design was also shared in the commissioners meeting?
I
Okay.
presented
I'll have
it to
look
the
through that, too.
commissioners in June of 2024.
Okay.
I can share with you those links if you'd like to see them.
I'm just curious to the interior. I've probably seen them before, but I just can't recall.
Any other comments?
The only other update I had was really with regards to the pond. So I'm going to kind of skim through those slides a little bit. I made a presentation to this board in October of 2024. This is an aerial shot of the algae, of course, that had accumulated then. And this is what it's starting to look like now, recognizing that we have a significant buildup of the fibrous algae on the surface of the pond. Obviously, the heat, the UV, the sunlight, combined with all the organic sedimentation that has settled in the pond is exacerbating this problem. If you'll recall, we had the pond skimmed with an amphibious Truxor vehicle that came in and collected all of the algae last year, and was able to get a lot of that removed, which was great, but we also knew that it was just a Band-Aid and that this is a problem that is going to continue to come back. So these are some shots I believe I took last week. The current algae is the Pithiflora form of the filamentous algae. We talked a lot about this. I'll spare you all the details. But nothing that's dangerous, nothing that's toxic, but is obviously something that, you know, doesn't look nice on the pond, and really is creating this blanket that's laying over the pond. It's not good for the wildlife. It's not good for anything. Not good for fishing. So it's something that eventually, you know, is going to have to be addressed. I'm in the process of contracting with Tigris, who did the pond skimming last year, to have them come in and redo it. I'm probably going to hold off on it for at least another month, because if I have them come out and do it now, they're going to have to come out and do it again, most likely in August or September or even October. So we want to try and, you know, take advantage of getting them in once and getting it done. One of the other things we're just going to have to consider on the horizon with the pond, as I know we discussed when I had presented it in October, was that, you know, at some point we're going to have to address the subsurface vegetation and sediment that has accumulated within the pond. I know that this particular company does have an opportunity with this vehicle that they have where they can come in and they can rake some of the free-floating vegetation that is down inside the pond, but anything that's rooted certainly would not be able to be removed. That would have to take place through a harvesting process and or a dredging process, which gets into a lot more detail in not only understanding the composition of the subsurface and what's there, but there's permitting, and it's also very, very expensive. So I know last year I had placed some placeholders in the capital budget, of course, for the commissioners. Obviously, it was unfunded, but you know, it is something that is in there as a placeholder, as we know it's something we're going to have to address in the future. So these are just a couple of other pictures. This is what it looked like after it was skimmed, so radical difference. And then last year I also had a bathymetric study done of the pond to take a look at the current depths of what the water, how deep the water is essentially, how deep the surface is. And what this image right here is showing you is what last year in July, when this had occurred, what the depths look like. So you'll see on the, let me get the laser pointer. So this would be the western side of the pond. Obviously, you know, Shimoni Road, as you see down here. And for anybody who's walked the pond recently and you're on this side of the pond, you can certainly see that it's very shallow, it's very mucky, and it's very built up with a heavy amount of sediment and a heavy amount of vegetation that has grown within there. So in 2017, we actually had this studied, and the average depth on this side of the pond was about 3.5 feet, where, you know, you had, you know, water, you know, that was, you know, available and a fish could swim through it, right? And when we had this study done last year, some of these depths averaged about 1 foot. So you can see where the differences are. So if you look at the eastern side of the pond, not to be confused with Eastern University, but to the east directionally, some of these distances, or some of these depths rather, were 12 to 15 feet. Last summer they're like 8 and 6 feet. So this is dramatic, and it's going to continue to get dramatic over the years as we continue to let the situation go. So it's certainly something that's going to have to be given some attention. I know folks have asked me, and I get lots of feedback all the time about why we don't have fountains in the pond, which really is essentially known as aeration, which is moving the water around and creating oxygenation, keeping things moving. Unfortunately, I've met with a lot of companies to come in and evaluate different types of diffusing situations with aeration, and due to a lot of the buildup and the sediment that's within there, they would just jam up. Unfortunately, we're not in a situation right now where we could install those. We could evaluate maybe doing some of that on this side of the pond, where we have a little bit of greater depths in terms of water composition to get that flow that we need. But looking in some of these other areas where you can see the depths are just way too shallow, unfortunately systems would not be effective. It's also important to keep in mind that the size of the pond is 2.2 acres, so it's a lot smaller than the Willows. So a lot of people compare, of course, the two and see that we have obviously a lot of effectivity going on over there. But those ponds had been installed for quite a while. I think those are going on a decade being in there. And it's not to say that the Willows Pond doesn't have its own share of issues. It certainly does. But those that are here at Fenimore are eminent for certain. So at some point, we would definitely want to take a look at how we might be able to do this. So I know I had mentioned a couple different methods, the raking, the harvesting, there's dredging. Raking obviously is something that, we could look to do as a short-term fix. I have to understand from somebody who would come in and do that, how much is really free floating and how much can be removed, and will it make a difference, in order for it to be cost effective. And then at that point, how much time does that buy us to where at some point we actually have to, do a mechanical harvesting, which again is like going down and grabbing stuff at the root and pulling it out, because that's where all the buildup and everything exists. And essentially that's what's creating the algae bloom. It's everything that's coming off of all of that buildup underneath that's really causing the blanket to, to accumulate on the surface of the pond during the warmer months. So I just wanted to address this. I've been in conversations with the EAC about it, so they're aware of what we're doing and what we're interested in doing, not only short-term with trying to get the algae skimmed, within the next month or two, but also the long-term plans that we really have to consider for Fenimore Pond. Does anybody have any questions?
No other comments? If not, we can go to trails and parks. Was it trail projects?
I don't have any updates right now unless any of the members have any questions.
Steward program? I know we have a lot of, things going on in the township as far as the trees and, as you mentioned before, with cleanup and everything. I was just wondering, on the bike trail, do they go through there and check that often? Because some of the bushes are starting to intrude on the pathway there.
The bike trail was part of the tree risk assessment that was performed in February, was presented to the board in February, but I think it was done prior to that.
Okay.
So I know Public Works tries to check it on a regular basis. I think it's just
the timing.
time,
Yeah.
manpower, all of
Yeah.
that, and getting out to be able to address a lot of those things.
Yeah. I didn't mean to say that it needs to be addressed right now, but it's one of those things you can look and see that it's coming down the road anyway.
There's a section where the rocks are that it just tends to overgrow pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not trees as much as those lower, they just really just grow right in, particularly now with sun.
Yeah.
Just like one of the important things to keep in mind is that our parks staff, although we have dedicated parks staff and parks crew that are out there maintaining the parks, when we get storms, they have to go on storm cleanup. So they double in a lot of other different areas that we don't always have them exclusively to parks. And then, there's certain seasons where we lose them, like the fall, because they go on leaf duty. So I think trying to keep up with these recent storms has been a difficult thing.
Exactly. I went down to, traveled down to Virginia, and I've never seen so much greenery, actually green, and
It's
it's
green.
not brown anymore. It was just a beautiful sight to see, so.
I do have a comment about the willows, and just a good comment for those, if you've walked through it recently. There is tree plantings that was done along one of the fence lines, and we always talk about needing trees, but it's a wonderful strip that there's new trees in there, and I think it's a great zone. So for those who haven't been in the back section, you may not see it when you drive through, but it really takes what is just a mowed area and makes it now trees and natural plantings, and that's perfect. I was impressed with it. So for those, take a walk in the willows and enjoy it.
All right, then. Any public participation? Yeah.
Howard, one more comment, sorry.
Yes, sir.
There was a speaker here, I want to say it was like a few Tuesdays ago, or maybe a month or more ago, a naturalist. And he said, the time to plant trees was 40 years ago. The best time now to plant trees is right now. So it's good that we have done that, and we can keep doing it.
Great. All right. I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All right. All approves? And we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Chairman.
September.